Hello.
Hey, Miss Tina,
Hi.
I want us to step way outside of the grid. Not way outside of the grid. I want us to back up out of the grid. I want us to go back to the beginning. I want us to review some early theories. You up for that game today?
I sure am. You ready?
So, yeah, I'm ready. So let's jump way back to February 13th, maybe up a day, the February the 14th or the 15th. That first few days there, you know that everybody in town was talking. There was houses searched. There was all kinds of things going on around Delphi and Carroll County. Bring us back for a minute. What do you in your mind? What do you see as some of the at the beginning? What do you see going on?
Okay. Well, we do know that within just a couple of days, even the next day, there were properties that were searched, homes, inside and out. There were locals talked to, and this was what we're talking about, the very beginning. There was someone who lived very close to the bridge who him and his son were looked at. That was that was early on. We actually had a couple sets of father-sons. But this that I found, I was doing some research yesterday and came across this, and it was actually pretty new to me. So I looked into it, and you can see why they were looked into, the vicinity, how close they were, which was, again, what they call local. The dad looks like old bridge guy sketch. The son looks like young bridge guy. So that was a pretty interesting theory there, that they did this. There's reasons out there why they could have been BG or the killer, however you want to say it. So if people just do a little research on their own, they would come across this, and it's pretty plausible, actually very plausible.
Well, here's something real quick: is that they came out with the old guy sketch, old bridge guy, and then they came out with a new bridge guy a couple of years later. And then since then, we've been hearing all of LE going, hey, it's going to be some kind of an amalgamation of the two. It's going to be, maybe you got to put this one in front of that one, and maybe they're both. So I don't see how there could be two there. This is not out. This is even right. The biggest theory out there is about a father and a son. So, that's interesting that there would be another father and son involved. But but now there's a lot more if they're local. We're talking about these local people. You said local, and that's big because they said someone local. But if you look just around that Delphi, the bridge there, the Monon High Bridge, there's a lot of property out there. A lot of people right now are talking about RL, even though he's passed away, but there's a lot more than that out there. There's many properties that were searched out there. There's the one you're talking about there, and those guys, a father-son duo. And there's probably, if you can get out there and read it, you can figure out all kinds of stories about that. But then there's more out there. What are some other ones that are out there that you're aware of that you can talk about?
Okay, I do want to say something about the father-son, though. When Carter says it's a combination of the two, to me that was a hint, it still makes sense, father-son. I mean, the son looks very similar to his dad, so I think that's what he meant. It's a combination, of the two. That's, how I take it. I could totally be wrong because I'm wrong a lot of times. But anyways, your second question, motorcycle club gang, however you want to say it, theory, the local drug scene, there. I just want to throw this out there. We say BG, bridge guy. What if it's bridge girl? And that would be affiliated with a theory that I had came across about motorcycle gang / drug scene. I mean, it's that as well is plausible. And in such a small town, these things, are huge. There's not a lot going on, and it's just not that city that these drug and motorcycle gangs are. It's 2 or 3 other surrounding counties, and from my understanding, they pretty much run things around there, these drug / motorcycle clubs. So that's a good theory, that was in the beginning too, and I've researched the heck out of it, and I still am researching.
I don't think you could discount that yet until there's an arrest, because, I'm a recruiter. It's what I do for a living, and I've worked with prisons before. And, of course, one of the first things that I was told whenever we went in to talk about recruiting nurses to work in a prison, or even the guards, was that the people that were criminals, they're, with me, people say, well, I have a master's degree in psychology, but I'm not a criminal. A criminal does that. A psychologist studies that kind of thing to try to understand the criminal or the sick person or whatever else. But these guys that are on the inside, the real criminals, the people that try to get away with bending the laws, they figure out how to manipulate people. Whether they're people that are marks or people they need something from. But, backing up again, these people that were the prison, the operations managers and such, they were saying, you have to find people and prepare them for what's going to happen to them. People, number one, that will work in that environment. And number two is people that understand they're going to get these criminals are going to, they're going to try to get them to do things for them. And if they ever do one thing, say, for instance, a criminal has someone on the outside drop $500 off into a guard or a nurse's, mailbox at their home, a blank envelope with $500 in it, and they get someone to do something for them one time, they own them, even if it's just to not say anything about the money, So, criminals and the gangsters, they go to places where they can operate. And a lot of times in bigger cities, there's a lot going on. There's more detectives. But you look at just like you were talking about there, in a small town, if you own one cop or one person in the county or the city or what have you, then you really control it all. Because once you own one, then you've got people that are working for you. So I understand what you're saying with that local gangster take on it. That guy that you and I, everybody knows who we're talking about if they were to do just a couple of Google searches. Drugs, gangster guy, local, and all of his comrades, the people that worked for him. When I say worked for him, they did things for him. He did things for them. Back and forth. That's an interesting case. You could spend 2 or 3 days just studying that. That's interesting. But there's more to it. You want to dig into that, or you want to move on to another one, or what do you want to do, Tina?
Well, I do want to mention that what I'm talking about is not Garrett Kirk's related. I don't want, our viewers thinking, I'm leaning towards that. It's not Garrett Kurtz. It's someone a little more violent than Garrett Kurtz. Yes, I understand that Garrett Kurtz is in prison for murder. But if they look into this, just go back to early theories. It's so plausible, and I can connect this gang that I'm talking about to Kagan. And so that can go back to our catfishing, the catfisher theory too. I just want to be careful how I put things out there. I never want to cause anyone who's innocent, to have their name out there or family members hurt or anything. But it's so plausible. I mean, this town is so small, and those surrounding counties are just as well. Some people have a hard time believing that corruption, happens, but it really does. Drugs right now are so prevalent, no matter if you're from a small town or a large town. And in Indiana, it's a mouthful, it's proven that the is active here. So just try to be careful when I'm putting anything out there. So which one would you like to go to next?
Yeah, of course, some of those things that they're tied to, we're going to move on real quick after this, but there, a lot of people have suggested that there were, even one of our videos from outside of the grid, suggested there may have been some carvings there. And you can even attribute those to motorcycle gangs or other, just gangs in general, people that work in coalition. But anyway, but there's many more there. I mean, hyper local. I'm not just talking about in Delphi, but I mean, I remember hearing about that one house was searched multiple times there within just a couple of days. And this guy here, this house that I'm talking about may even have some ties to maybe even other murders, because the serial killer thing here, I mean, it's prevalent with a lot of local things there, because right along Highway 80, Interstate 80, just a few miles from there, in Delphi and many other places around Indiana and other places, you have a lot of meat packing places. You have people that move from job to job. And, I mean, to me, that, if you're around slaughtering animals, you learn how to use knives and such. I mean, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it. It's not the only way. It may not be the answer, but that's interesting when you think about it. What do you think?
I think it is, and I've been researching so much, just the past 2 weeks alone. And when I say researching, I also need to, a friend of mine, her and I have been working really hard on this too. So I want to make sure I give her credit. It wasn't just me, but serial killer thing, the first theory we were talking about earlier today, it's rumored also that this local right there that was very close to the bridge could be responsible for Evansdale. Now that's something trying to find out, but I'm just putting it out there as this is what I found from other posts, talking to people. There's just so much talk out there. It's really hard, they really just need to go back. Maybe it is something so simple as, Occam's razor, which is just what they say with murders, that someone's usually killed, by a family member, someone they know. And let me correct myself or put this out there right now. I'm not accusing the family when I said that. I do not believe anyone with the family is related to this. But murder, it's revenge, sex, drugs, so in some of these theories we're talking about, they have those common things right there. Makes sense?
Well, revenge, that's a part of some of this local stuff. Some of the gang stuff we've already talked about. I mean, everybody that's ever researched Delphi understands that some of the girls' parents have had complicated lives. And, it's no secret. There's been a lot of people insinuate that there's some revenge things going on there. But that's not even all, though. I mean, there are multiple layers to that, because there's multiple ways that revenge is sought. And, there's so many people that live right there just real close to this thing. So,
Yes,
we
and
talked about that house that was searched. What? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no. That's what I was going to talk about. Like the first theory we were talking about. That's just someone who it was mentioned might tell something they know about this father son. They found out some information, and they were going to say something about this. It's just as simple as people don't want their secrets out, I'm just trying to be really careful because I just never want to insinuate or accuse anyone without, totally having facts. You know what I mean?
Well, we're not here to destroy anybody. We're just here for people
Yeah.
that are interested in this case, that are studying it. And, if you're out there looking at this case, you're going to see things that go, oh, my God, look at that connection, or that connection, or that connection. I can't even imagine being law enforcement in this thing. There's so many different.
I know.
circles
Speaking of law enforcement,
everywhere.
I had talked with you earlier. I had saw John Douglas early on. He's an FBI profiler. And he said that when you find the killer, this killer will have worked with kids. And like I said, the first theory we were talking about, he does. He does work with kids. And I just thought that was interesting. I had heard that, and then I came across this theory that I hadn't heard that before. So that's what I'm working on right now, is really researching that.
Well, and then you've got, everybody talks about RL, and from what I understand, this guy, I understand why people would think he may have something, let's talk about those pings in just a second, but you mentioned Kurt a little bit ago, and I mentioned him in a video yesterday, but he was on that property, and he's murdered at least 2, maybe 3 people, or been involved in it. So, and what, Ron Logan, RL, rest in peace, he would bring people there that were having challenged lives and give them a place to be, from what I understand. And so he worked with kids too. And, of course, if you're out there in this world and you run across people like you or people you feel for, you'll bring them in. And sometimes...
Yeah, and there's other POIs who have worked with kids. I just thought that was an interesting thing. Some of these theories that people come up with, okay, everybody has their own opinion, but just really, really research it. Look what else is out there. You mentioned, the pings. We'll give a shout out to True Crime Web, because he actually went up there and proved that, everyone was talking about making a deal about Libby's phone pinging that night all around town. He proved with his phone, he set his phone down in one area, they'd look it up, and it was showing him all over the creation. And then he even mentioned how that could be why Ron Logan, it looked like he was out at the murder scene. I mean, the poor guy wasn't. And like you and I have talked about, if they found one shred, one iota about anything connected to this case that they could tie to Ron Logan when they did their extensive search, he would have been in prison. Poor man would have died in prison. And you even commented today when I was talking to you about the pings and sent me screenshots how, your GPS is. So you understand that, so you could, talk about that more. I don't understand all that pinging stuff, but in simple terms I do, but not like, how it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not too technical with it, but I'm very user-friendly with it, and I use it because I step lots of steps per day, and I follow myself. And, of course, I want to be as transparent with everybody where I'm at all the time. I have a family plan with my family, and, of course, we share our location with other people. And sometimes that thing to say that I'm somewhere, but I'm a quarter of a mile the other way from it. And of course, if you get a text message from one person in your family, and then it pings, and it doesn't have the full triangulation going on. It hits 2 towers as opposed to 3 towers. There's not as much accuracy there. So yeah, I that's, with that, I mean, from the very beginning when they were talking about, well, his phone pinged there, that's, to me, like, with that whole affidavit is I mean, that's a very biased thing. They were trying to demonstrate a particular case. They didn't have to provide additional information. They were just saying things that sounded good so that they can accomplish the goal they wanted to accomplish with Ron Logan. And then one other thing on that is that they could have been doing that with all of them. The first person we mentioned, the father-son scenario, or Ron Logan, or or BW or PB or any of the rest of them. I mean, because that they've got those same kind of data from all of them.
Yeah, and it's probably very hard. It's probably very hard for Ellie, like we're talking about, they're pinging right there at the crime scene, but they really weren't even there. They've got a lot of that and I don't know, I'm not technology savvy like that. Like, can they actually ping that, yes, they absolutely were there, or were they not? That you're just pinging there for some reason. Does that make sense? I don't understand.
Well, if you could carry it to court and prove that Ron Logan was at the murder site for the girls with beyond a reasonable doubt, as you said a few minutes ago, he would have died in prison and not at his home with some ankle bracelet on it. That's for sure.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think people in general just need to move on from Ron Logan. I mean,
maybe
the man has passed. Myself, I've totally moved on from him.
It's just amazing to me that he's such a prevalent part of it, though. And of course, they've moved on from other people as well. But like Ron Logan said, I remember that interview. He's like, "Well, if you got money, you can do whatever you want to do. You can block the internet from even knowing about you even being there, So, and that may be the case with other things as well. You put enough lawsuits out there. If you got enough money to have a lawyer to defend you, whether you're innocent or not, just look at the current world right now. If you got lawyers, you can go a long ways. You can have lunch with the judge before the court, But
absolutely.
So now locally, those first few days there, man. So they searched. Even the Kleins were searched in those first 2 days, weren't they? I mean, they were
11 days. 11 days.
That's local. Even to me, 20 miles away is local to me. I mean,
it's just traveling, town to town, county to county. Local to me is within 100-mile radius. That's just me. Like, I'll go to our local store that's 100 miles away because I don't have one in the exact vicinity of me.
Well, a lot of people never move within 50 miles of their house. But like with me as well, I'm in at least 6 counties per week. And, of course, they're all local to me. I know as much about state parks in one of them as I do in the other. In fact, in other counties in which I don't live, I know more about them because I'm there more. So local to me, it means all kinds of things, for sure. Well, so back to the beginning here. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you what another theory you want to cover. I didn't know what you have time for, so.
Well, I don't have too much time. I know you don't either because I know you have some things going on. And so we're really close out there. You, Tina and Brad, whenever we're on here, we pack it dense for people, whether they know it or not. if they even spend half the time that Miss Tina looks at, I bet you that I could throw out anybody's name in this thing, and I guarantee you that you've researched it. And of course, it's always so interesting to speak with you. Because, like, whenever we're throwing back ideas back and forth, it's mostly you throwing ideas, not because of the fact that you're trying to accuse me about it, but you're just looking at so many different angles. And then in most times you come back to me and go, well, it's kind of like that law enforcement thing we were talking about the other day. It's like, well, I followed that trail down as far as it would go, but it dead ended. Now I'm gonna go look at something else. And I
and
think
that's what I do.
smart.
Yeah, that's what I do. I try to, prove this person or disprove, and it's really hard because I could come up with a good reason why, but you got to put them there. You've got to put them there. And a couple of things I'm working on right now, me and this friend I'm talking about, and you, close to possibly pinning a couple of them there. I mean, it's really, does that mean they did it? No, that's just, that's us. And go ahead.
Well, no, if they're in proximity, first off, like you just said, you got to put them there. So if they're not there in the first place, well, it's kind of hard to make some guy from South Louisiana be the bridge guy or girl. Throw that in there. If they're not there, for sure. But I cut you off. What was your thought there? I'm sorry, Tina.
I'm not sure where I was going. What were we talking about? I was listening to you. I have so much in my head, because I was up so late, researching some stuff and got up early. And it's just like, there's just so much information out there if you just dig, you just dig. But one thing I would like for us is that, these girls, in the end, it's always about them. They were out there living life, had no idea this horrible thing was going to happen to them. And, I saw a post today, and it just really made me think they would be out right now. They'd be in college, on campus somewhere maybe, just living their life. And because of this, I like how you refer to him as devil. Because of this devil, they're not. And here we are out here trying to help solve it. I think it's a good thing.
That's the only thing that we can do. And also, another thing that they can do that listen to us is like and subscribe if you like what we're doing.
Absolutely. Let us know in the comments, what do you like this content? Do you want to continue with this? Because Brad and I could, continue with different theories that have been out there, and maybe one of those theories would jog someone's, memory. So let us know.
Sounds wonderful. Be blessed, Miss Tina.
You too. I will talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Bye.